excited.
Your sketch artist, Matthew DeWater.
The Festival of the Arts. Welcome to Walt Disney World's 50th anniversary. Lots of fun stuff going on here today, so glad you could be here. Always want to have a nice sharp pencil. As you guys will notice, our pencils do not have any erasers on them. That certainly is not to say that we never make mistakes or we don't erase. I also have with me here, if you guys can see it, I brought some reference for Sorcerer Mickey. I brought the original model sheet from Fantasia that the animators used. So this is what they would use for reference. So I work in a department called the Disney Creative Group, and we have a lot of awesome artists that run Disney stuff happening, and I did all those characters running the marathon. So it's a little bit of everything, but I always like to come back to Mickey. So here,
dream job, what I want to do.
Take one more little piece of tape for my reference. In the middle of the
I already drew the guidelines. Going down the middle. He's like, want to draw guidelines.
So very lightly again, straight down the middle.
A little further down then.
Here's our guideline. Especially since Mickey's face is so symmetrical.
Too dark.
It helps to have that guideline. And then we'll draw one horizontal right through the middle again. Okay? Now, if you want to be really sure, you can even draw a couple guidelines at 45 degrees like this. You don't have to draw these ones. I'm going to do it just to show you guys. But just coming up like a pizza. And that's going to show us where his ears are. So we're going to draw those two dimes. Like I said, they're smaller, but of course Mickey's ears are. Just using
this is where I'm at
for these guidelines, just so you guys can see on the screen the difference between the guidelines and right where his ear starts there. Go way up top here, and bring it back down to the other ear. Okay, just like a little party hat. Okay, so we've got our basic shape there. I'm going to start with my black pencil so you guys can see his features better here. Okay. Lines forward to show us right in the middle. Okay, we're going to do two ovals, one on either side. And start right there. And there's about there's about one eye width in between his eyes. So if you were to draw another oval right there in the middle, that's how far apart they should be, like that. Okay. And do two more ovals. Kind of towards the bottom, I like to leave a little bit of space on the one side. And that kind of helps him to be looking straight at the camera rather than a little bit kind of wall-eyed. So I do it, I favor the inside of the eye. Right there. Okay. And then we'll do the line for his snout, which is just under his eyes. Use that guideline that we put in for placement. That shows the top of his snout, where his nose is going to go. And so leaving just a little bit of space under that, and we draw his nose. And it's just a big oval. Just like that. See me kind of come in here and refine a little bit. You know, when I first get that oval down, I don't really like how the corners were looking there, so I come in and just kind of refine that. And that's why we draw white to start out, where his smile is, right? Because it's all one shape. Like I said, that's a 3D space and shape where Mickey's got that nice kind of fleshy face. So it's just a curved line, points down, one on that side and one on this side. those are his smile lines. The bottom of his cheeks. Okay, for his smile, as you can imagine, we just go from one end to the other. Give him a nice big smile. I like to really kind of emphasize the corners of his smile because it feels like he's really smiling. You really kind of gotta feel it in your face. While I'm drawing, I'll find myself making all these goofy faces to kind of feel what's happening in my face. Keep that in the middle. So just kind of a rounded U shape for the bottom of his mouth. Okay. I'll favor that bottom lip some. And for his bottom lip, I'll come in and draw one more U shape right underneath it that breaks off of the circle of his head there. Right underneath to make his bottom lip there. And then in the middle, right in his mouth, we're just going to do his tongue, which is two little humps, two little curved lines like a little bead inside his mouth. Okay. And now we got to draw his mask. So that's the part that separates the flesh color of his face and the black of his head. So first we're going to come right up here to the top in the middle and do kind of a curve right in the middle on that guideline. And it goes back up to the top of the circle. Okay, just like that. Little V. And we'll follow that around in either direction for the curve of his eyes. And you can kind of follow the same curve that you already did. It's kind of a parallel line to that. And follow it around right down to where your guideline is, right there. Okay, and I'll do that on the other side. Follow the curve of the eye around and stop right in the middle at the guideline. Okay. And the rest of his mask is just his cheeks. So now viable. A lot of times, kind of the rule for him is to keep it within that circle. But honestly, animation is made to break rules. So I always like to break it out a little bit of the circle. And you'll see they did this a lot in, like I said, Mickey's had a lot of different looks over the years. And they used to do this a lot in the 50s, especially with like Mickey Mouse Club, the old Mickey Mouse Club days. They would do that and it just kind of gives them a little extra personality to me. So I'm going to do that on both sides, just not too much, but it breaks out of the circle of the head a little bit. And then comes back in to meet the bottom lip. Okay? Now, before we finalize any of these ears or anything, okay? So, the bottom brim of his hat is going to be just in between. You want to be able to see some of this V, so you want to go above that V and just do kind of a curved line that comes right across like this. But we still want to see that V underneath his head because for some reason, if you put a hat on Mickey's head and you don't see that V anywhere, it doesn't look right. It doesn't look like Mickey. Looking at it, you can see I got it a little bit tilted. That wasn't on purpose, but I kind of like it. Gives a little bit more personality. And then I'm going to do the top rim of the hat. So just following that same line, I'm going to come right here and do another curved line, except this time I'm going to curve it around his head. So the ends just curve around back to the head the guideline of the head. Okay, like that, and like that. Both sides. Okay, so that's the brim of his hat there. And now that we have that in place, we can come right in here and kind of tighten up. Okay? And now I'll do the hat. Now we already have those guidelines in there before. I can just kind of follow them as is. Sometimes his hat kind of flops over a little bit because it's, especially in the original movie and the short film, The Sorcerer's Apprentice, it's too big for him, right? Because it's not his hat, it's the wizard Yensid's hat.
Sorcerer's hat.
So it kind of flops on him a little bit. But right now I'm just gonna keep it straight up. Fun fact, I'm sure a lot of you know this, but the wizard is named Yensid, which is Disney backwards. Okay, now that we've got that, we can come in here, and you only do the parts of his ears, because his ears are behind his hat, right? So you only do parts of that circle that you can see outside the hat. So I'm going to tighten those up, both sides. And there he is almost. We're just missing one thing, which is, of course, the stars and the moon on his hat. So there's actually some rules for it. You always see the moon towards the bottom left center of the hat. So I'm gonna, and that's kind of a cheat that happens. No matter which direction you draw Mickey, no matter which way he's looking, we always like to draw the moon towards the center. And it kind of, just kind of those, one of those things that helps it feel like Sorcerer Mickey, helps that hat look its best.
His moon is better than
So
my
you got the moon. And then we see two stars. Now there's one right on this side, so if his head was tilted a little bit, I draw a little bit of a star on this side, but from straight on, we see one star right up here. And we don't see the whole thing, so I'm just gonna draw two bits of that star poking out, maybe a little bit of the top of it. And one right over here on the side, and we see a little more of that one. Again, don't see the entire star. So just 3 points for that star. And with that, we're looking pretty good. I'm gonna come in here, now if you want, this is, of course, totally optional, however you want your drawing to look. I'm gonna come in here and some of the black parts. So that paints his nose, the inside of his mouth. Just very lightly, quickly shade in those black areas. And his ears. Okay, and now as I finish up, I just like to kind of come in here and fix anything that I'm not super crazy about. Kind of tighten up those lines. Go around everything, make sure I'm liking how it looks.
It keeps dropping in.
Before we leave, I always like to share a little fun fact about Drew. And so I was reading some stuff about Fantasia, and we actually, in the last class, we just drew Dumbo, and we talked about how Dumbo's budget was kind of small because Fantasia had come before, right before Dumbo. And so Fantasia was super ambitious, and they just went over budget like crazy. And actually, the short that Sorcerer Mickey is in, The Sorcerer's Apprentice, was originally supposed to be just a standalone short film. It wasn't supposed to be part of a bigger feature film. And it kept getting more and more expensive, that eventually Walt and the team were like, we can't just put this out as a cartoon because it's not going to make enough money. So they expanded it into what they at the time called the concert feature, which is what turned into Fantasia. And for the concert feature, they had they redesigned Mickey for the first time with pupils. Because before that, he was just, you may have seen in the old Mickey cartoons, he had what we call pie eyes or dot eyes, and they were just those solid black eyes that would move all the way around in his face. But Fantasia was the very first time that he had pupils, and that was so they could really push the expression on him. So kind of a fun fact about Sorcerer Mickey, Fantasia. So, how are we feeling about?
Really good. We like that.
Very cool. So I want to thank you guys for joining me. Thank you for being here at Festival of the Arts today. I'm going to be out here for a couple minutes after the show. I'd love to see your drawings. Before we do go, I'm gonna take a selfie real quick. If you guys don't mind holding up your drawings so that I can take a picture with everybody.